All right, so this is a late start to 3.5. That doesn't mean you need to come Wednesday, but do make sure you understand all of this. If you don't, and you have a specific question in my math lab, just send me a screenshot of that question, and I will make you a video answering that question so you are ready for that question on the exam, okay? 3.5 is graphing a line using slope and y-intercept. Let's start. We will also write equations for lines, vertical and horizontal lines, and we already did parallel and perpendicular. So it's just not true. Okay. Finding equations of parallel and perpendicular lines. Sorry. If you were able to watch If you were able to watch 3.1, 3.2, and 3.3 and 3.4, you should feel okay about this, okay? And especially because our exams are multiple choice and you have Desmos, okay? So you can just throw this into Desmos, which one looks like that, or graph it for yourself, okay? This is called slope intercept form because this is your y-intercept. This is your y-axis. This is your x-axis. So y equals mx plus b when m is your slope and b is your y-intercept. That means that that b becomes a point. It becomes the point 0, comma b, okay? In this exact case, that means that that point is 0, comma positive 1. That's that point right there. That means you know that you can start your line right there. You can start it anywhere on your line, but that's the easiest place to start because that's where it crosses y, and that's what they gave you. Now you have the slope of 2 over 3. What the slope tells you is where to go from this point, okay? Remember that 2 for slope, the top number is your y value or how to move on y. Your bottom number is your x value or how to move on x, okay? B is equal to 1 right here just because this is, oh yeah, from the last lesson, yes. B is equal to 1 just because that's the term. Even if you had written y equals 1, this won't show up on the exam, but even if you get it out of order, the constant is your y-intercept. The number that x is being multiplied by is your slope. That is why when I was throwing the perpendicular lines into Desmos, I wasn't even putting plus anything. I was just putting a number in front of x because we were only talking about slope. So the number in front of x is always your slope. 2/3 means from your b, from your y-intercept, you need to move on the y, which we know is up and down, positive 2. And then you're going to move on your x, positive 3. So remember that x this way is negative, this way is positive. Y this way is positive, this way is negative, right? Because that's just a number line. And then we took another number line and we made it a perpendicular line to that first number line. Good. So from your point, you're going to go positive 2 on the y. 1, 2. Okay. And then I'm going to go positive 3 on the x because it's a positive 2 over positive 3. And that's all I have to do. My line is graphed. Good. It's the slope 2, 3. Even if I go down 2, left 3, down 2, left 3, or up to right 3, up to right 3, it will always, I can always move from any point to any other point using that pattern, and it goes through the y-intercept at positive 1. Okay. Also, my slope was a positive number, and so remember that a positive slope is always going Like if you were walking and you hit a positive slope, you're going up, that is a negative slope. So I always like to check if my line is going up in any way, that it's a positive number in front of the x. 3x plus y equals -2. You can throw it into Desmos looking exactly like that if you want, or you can set it equal to y. Because I don't really know how to graph this except in y equals mx plus b form, but the computer does, right? So I always put it into y equals form. So now my slope is don't forget the negative, -3. And my y-intercept, or my b, is a -2. Good. So that means the point 0, -2, because it doesn't move on the x, it doesn't move left or right, it's just 0, -2, is where I start. And my slope is -3. Remember that the slope was y over x, right? If I only have the number -3, what is my x? And this is very important. This will show up on the exam. If I only have a -3, what is my x? It's not 0, it's actually 1. Because if you think about -3 divided by 1, it's just the number -3. Okay? -3 divided by 0, not a real number. -3 divided by 1 is itself. Okay? So when they just give you a whole number in front of your x, you're in front of this x, you move 1 on the x axis. Good. So we're going to go from here, we're going to go -3 on y. This is -y. This is positive y. This is positive x. This is negative x. Okay. I'm going to go -3 on y. And then I'm going to go +1 on x. That's my line. Done. Probably not keeping it super straight, so you can't. Good. All right. Now it's asking us to write an equation of the line with a y-intercept of 0, -5, and a slope of 2/3. Okay. Remember, y equals mx plus b when your y-intercept is 0, b, and my slope is m. Slope of m, I think somebody's not muted. Y-intercept of 0, -b. And then we just put those numbers in there. So remember this, or use your note card, put it on your note card. Y equals m, which is my slope, x plus b is always that second number, 0, -5, plus -5. I would have been better off writing just -5, right? Because adding a -5 is the same as -5. Everybody feel okay about that? That is an equation of the line, because if I put that equation into a graphing calculator, I will get out the line. It has a y-intercept at -5. It crosses at 0, -5. And then from 0, -5, I'm going to go up 2/3. Up 2/3. And from all of these points, you can also go double negative, right? Because negative divided by a negative is a positive. So you can also go -y, -x, -y, -x. Good? Still a positive slope. All right, somebody asked, does the numerator of the fraction of the, does the numerator of the fraction that is the slope, does the numerator of the slope represent where to move on the x-axis? Yes. So the numerator is the top. The numerator is y, the denominator is x. So your top number always tells you up or down, okay? You can even write that next to your top number. That is fine. If Zoom's kicking you out, you can watch the video. This will be a separate video. So you got through the first one, just start with 3.5. So you can even write this next to each number in your fraction for your slope. This one's the up and down number. This one's the side to side number. And you need to start from a point. Don't just start from the middle unless you have no y-intercept. If you have no y-intercept, start from the middle. Okay. Point slope form, there's going to be one question on the exam. So if you're pressed for time, I'm not saying don't learn it, but it's the same thing as y equals mx plus b, except we're going to say y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, because instead of knowing our y-intercept, we know some other different point. Okay. So this is for situations when I know the slope, I know one point on the line. Okay. Y1 and x1 here are the x and y of a point. So point 1 will have an x1 and a y1 value. That's the one point I know. And then m will just be slope. M is the slope, and x1 comma y1 is a point on the line. The only reason they have ones here is because we're talking about one point, and to differentiate them from the x and y that is always part of the equation. Good. All right, so let's try it. This is a line with a slope -2. So anytime you see slope and then a number, you can just say m equals -2, because the letter m for slope is not going to change throughout this chapter. That passes through -11, -12. So P1 is -11, -12. That means X1 is -11, right? Y1 is -12. I know my slope is -2, lots of negatives. So I'm just going to take that original equation, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And now I know what x1 is, so I'll put it there. I know what y1 is, I'll put it there. I know what m is, I'll put it there. Good. So my y1 was -12. My x1 is -11, and my slope was -2. Everything else is the same. Y minus, okay? Y minus a -12 is equal to -2 times x minus -11. So just because those are negative doesn't mean that that covers that negative. So we actually have y plus 12 is -2 times x plus 11. Any questions?
Can you give me a sec to write all that?
Yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, so now we're just going to distribute. This is how fast I should be teaching math, but we cover a lot of ground in this course, unfortunately. So I'm going to distribute the -2. Like, I shouldn't just be talking, I should be asking you guys questions. So that's y plus 12 equals negative 2 times x is just negative 2x. Negative 2 times a positive 11 is a negative 22. Good. All right, combine the like terms. What you want is, I mean, it doesn't ask what format the equation of the line is, but I'm most comfortable with this one. So that is an equation of a line. You can also put it into y equals mx plus b format by subtracting the 12. Now I just have y equals negative 2x minus 32, or minus 34. This is an equation of the line. We just made it a little bit clearer by combining like terms.
So you basically simplified it?
Yes, I simplified it by, because you could say that this is an equation of the line. That wouldn't, you can put this into Desmos and it will give you the same line as this line, and it will give you the same line as this line. I just tried to simplify it as much as I possibly could. Example 5 asks us to write an equation of the line through negative 4, 0 and 6, negative 1. All we know, ignore this part. Sick of standard form. Okay, standard form is, don't ignore it. I don't like it, but don't ignore it. Standard form is ax plus by equals c. So we will write it in standard form. I'm sorry, I crossed that off. It won't, yeah, I'll just stop. All right, so you have 2 points. That's all you have. You can put them into Desmos, but Desmos isn't really going to draw a line for you. So you do need to know what to do if you only have 2 points, how to get from 2 simple points to an equation of the line. Okay. Remember the equation for slope. The equation for slope, because slope is always m, is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So if you have 2 points, you can label each point. Maybe this is point 1. So x1 is negative 4, y1 is 0. Maybe this is point 2. So x2 is 6, y2 is negative 1. I always have to write it out because I make mistakes with x and y and 1 and 2. Good. So I know x2 is 6, y2 is negative 1, x1 is negative 4, y1 is 0. Now I just take those numbers and I put them in over here. So y2 was negative 1 minus y1. Y1 is all the way down here, 0. Negative 1 minus 0. X2 was 6. Was and still is 6. Good. And we still have a minus. We have that minus sign. We're just bringing it along. And then we have x1. X1 was negative 4. Those are 2 separate negatives, so they'll become a positive. Negative 1 minus 0 remains negative 1. 6 minus negative 4, it just becomes 6 plus 4. So that's negative 1/10. Now I have slope and I have 2 points. So I can use point slope form. I know the slope, I know at least 1 point. It's okay if you know 2 points. My slope, I'll write it down here. Slope is negative 1/10. So I'm going to use this equation. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And that's just the equation of the line. Okay. We know m is negative 1/10. And then for your point, so x1 and y1, you're just picking either point. I would pick this because it has a 0. Zeros are always like the easiest number for me to deal with. Good. So I'm going to say x1 is -4 and y1 is 0, just like it was here. X1 is -4, y1 is 0. So x1 was 0 and y1, nope, x1 was -4. Can't read my own writing. Y1 is 0. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus, not 0, -4. Close the parentheses. Y minus 0 remains y, -1/10 x plus 4, right? This looks difficult to distribute. It's not super bad, okay? Y equals -1/10 x. You can just call -1/10 x. We're just multiplying that by that. -1/10 times 4 just means we're taking, it's a negative times a positive, so it's going to be a negative. We're taking 4 and we're dividing it by 10. Or we're taking 4, multiplying it by 1, dividing it by 10 over 1. -1/10 times +4 that we change into a fraction by calling it 4 over 1 is 4 times 1 is 4, 10 times 1 is 10, and there was a negative in front of it. I can divide 4 by 2 and I get 2. I can divide 10 by 2 and I get 5. So that's actually y equals -1/10 x minus 2/5. Exam 3 has 26 questions. And I will post the exam. Of course. Appreciate you asking questions. I will post the exam study guide, and then that will be match for match. So if you can do the exam study guide, you're ready for the exam. And then I will also post a video of me completing the exam study guide and the answer key if you have any questions about it. All right. Standard form. So sorry. Y equals -10x minus 2/5. Now we want it in ax plus by equals c form. So that means we want the c alone, and we're going to move the -10 over here. So that is now +1/10x plus y equals -2/5. That would be standard form. They would also love it if there were no fractions. So you could also multiply everything by 10 and say it's x plus 10y equals -4, but that is not going to be on the exam. Okay. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. Now, if they give you a line on a graph, oh, we have 2 minutes. All right. If they give you a line on the graph, how do you write the equation? What I would recommend is finding 2 points that are very clear. Clearly intersecting. Okay. It also helps if they are on your y-axis, but it's okay if they're not. So this would be the point 2, 5. This would be the point -1, 4. This would be the point -4, 3. Right? Now, you have 3 points. Here we only had 2 points, and we got all the way from 2 points. We found the slope from those 2 points. We put it in here, and we found our answer. So after all of that, this is just adding an entire extra step of finding the points themselves. So they just give you the line. you have to find the points, use the points to find the slope. And then once you have that slope, put the slope in here and put one of the points in here. And it's time to go. I will finish this video. Stop the recording. All right. In 1997, Window World had 50 employees. In 2012, the company had 85 employees. X represents the number of years after 1997. Y represents the number of employees. So the relationship between the years and the number of employees is linear. That means it makes a straight line. If your x-axis is years and your y-axis is people, right? So this would be your people increasing, and this would be time or years increasing. There's a linear relationship between the two. Use the equation to predict the number of employees in 2007. So write an equation describing how the number of people is growing over time. Good. So in 1997, they had 50. In 2012, they had 85. X is the number of years after 1997, and Y is the number of employees. How would you turn that into an equation? This is a difficult one also. Just put it out there. X is equal to the years minus 1997. Y is equal to the employees. Right? And all they gave us is that in years minus 1997, so in year 0, we had 50 employees. So that means when my X, I'm going to find a point, okay? You're not going to have to do this on the exam. Your point might be X is time. So at year 0, they had 50 people, right? Year 0, they had 50 people because they started in 1997. A second point, so I'll call this L1. L2, (2012) we had 85. So instead of 50, we're going to replace 50 with 85. And 2012, so subtract 2012 minus 1997, right? (2012) minus 1997 is 15. So now I have 2 points. I can find the slope now that I have the 2 points. Sorry, I wasn't even keeping that in the correct frame. My 2 points, my slope equation for 2 points is y2 minus y1 on the top over x2 minus x1 on the bottom. So on the exam, there are 2 questions where they're only going to give you 2 points. It's not going to be a question like this. It's just going to say, what is the line through these 2 points? Okay. You're going to use the slope formula to find the slope. And then you're going to use the point slope equation to find the equation of the line. Okay. So here's, since this is 0.1, x1, y1, 0.2, x2, y2. I guess it's not line 2 because they're both on the same line. So we'll call them 0.1 and 0.2. I apologize. So we're going to say y2 is 85 minus y1 is 50, x2, 15, x1 is 0. Good. So my slope is 85 minus 50 over 15 minus 0. So I get 85 minus 50 is 35. 15 minus 0 is just 15. Good. I can divide both of those by 5. So 35 divided by 15. If I just divide the top and the bottom by 5, I get 35 divided by 5 is 7. 15 divided by 5 is 3, because this is lowest terms, okay? 35 by 15 is the same number as 7 by 3. Good. So my slope is 7/3. Y equals 7/3 x, right? But we don't know what our y-intercept is. So I have the slope and I have 1 point. Oh, we do know what our y-intercept is. We have a point and it's the y-intercept. So you could just say plus 50. Or you can say that the point, let's see, point slope equation of a line, y minus y1 equals x times, nope, m times x minus x1. Good. Y minus, we're going to take this easy point, 50 equals, my slope is 7/3, times x minus 0. Good. So now that's y equals 7/3 x. I want to move that 50 over. So instead of us subtracting it on this side, I want to move it over here. So I'm just going to say plus 50 on both sides. Good. So 7/3 times x was 7/3 x, 7/3 times a -0. I'm not even going to include it. So that was y minus 50. Sorry, I kind of skipped a step, so I want to go back. Equals 7/3 x. And then I need to move that 50. So I add 50 here, add 50 here. I get y equals 7/3 x plus 50. Good. That's my equation. And the number of employees in 2007 means we would use a negative number. Yeah. No, 1997 and 2007. So that would be a 10. So y is what we want to know, the number of employees. Sorry, this is way too low. Number of employees is what we want to know. And then 2007, the year since 1997, y equals 7/3 times x plus 50 is my equation. But my x is the years minus 1997. 2007 minus 1997 is 10, right? So it's y equals 7/3 times 10 plus 50. Good. So I just input my x value, the one x value I know, and then I solve it for that x. So 10 times 7/3 plus 50 is 73 1/3 people. I guess I round that down to 72. Sorry, 73, not to 72. Can't round 73 point something to 72. So again, the equation's not going to be like this. There will be one word problem where you just have to interpret this and make one equation. It won't be as complicated as this one. But what I do want you to understand is if I only give you 2 points, can you make an entire equation from them? Good. So that's something to practice. Example 8, this will also be on the exam. Write the equation of a horizontal line containing the point 4, 5. Okay. You have your note card. Good. So you can fit as much as you want on the note card. Like you can put an example on there, but not all of your notes. Sorry, I wish that you could. Anyway. Think about what horizontal means, okay? Make sure that you're comfortable with a horizontal line versus a vertical line. And even if you wanted, like which one's X and which one's Y comfortably, okay? Horizontal line, this is not a good graph. I'm gonna make it keep going. In that case, just make it bigger, just commit, right? Horizontal is always gonna be left to right, like the horizon in the sky. Horizontal, okay? So think about horizontal. You're going maybe from here to here, right? It's flat. Did I, in my super straight line, did I cross the x-axis or the y-axis?
More.
Yes. you cross the y-axis. So remember, if your line crosses the y-axis, that means it has the letter y in it. Okay? Here is a vertical line, not horizontal. Okay? Vertical line is going to cross the x-axis. So that vertical line is x equals, the horizontal line is y equals, because this is my y-axis. And this is my x-axis. It's confusing because the x-axis is horizontal, but x equals is always a vertical line. The y-intercept is, or sorry, the y-axis is always vertical, but y equals is a horizontal line, okay? So a horizontal line means y equals, okay? And it contains the point 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is why it's a terrible graph, because I don't want my point up there. Here's the point 4, 5. How do I make a horizontal line that goes through 4, 5? I just pick another point. It also goes through 0, 5, right? But what is the equation of that line? If it goes through the y-axis, it's a y equals. And what is my y value? No matter what my x is, right? If I made a table, x equals 0, y equals, when x is 0 here, y is 5. When x is -1, y is equal to 5. When x is +1, y is equal to 5. So my equation is just y is 5. Okay. Or you know that a horizontal line, no, just do that. I need to teach you another way to do this. Okay, write the equation of a line containing the point 4, 5 with an undefined slope. Same point. Better graph this time. Good. Same point, 4, 5. An undefined slope. Remember, on the slope face, it looks like this. So undefined is straight up and down. That means it's also going to cross 4, 0, right? It crosses the x-axis. So it's going to be x equals. X equals 1, 2, 3, 4. It always crosses at 4. Good. All right, example 10. Write an equation of the line containing the point -2, 4, and it's parallel to the line y plus 3x, x plus 3y equals 6 in slope-intercept form. So parallel means that the slope of the first line is the same number as the slope of the second line. They are parallel. So it's parallel to whatever slope this is, and it has the point -2, 4. For these problems, it's important to know this formula, okay? You don't need to know the name of it. You just need to know that this is one point, and this is the slope, and that these two remain in the equation. So to solve this, you need to be able to find a y value, the x value that goes with it, and you need to be able to find a slope, okay? If you have one slope and one point, you can put it in here. It will give you the equation of the line, okay? So first, parallel to this, but this doesn't really tell us our slope immediately. This just tells us an equation that if you put it into Desmos, it would give you something back, right? But let's find out what the number is. Exactly, okay? So we're going to subtract x. What we want to do is get y alone. So now I have 3y equals -x plus 6. Good. I moved the x over. I want y alone. Divided by 3, divide by 3, divide by 3. Y equals -1/3 x plus 6 divided by 3 is actually 2. Good. negative x over 3 is the same as negative 1 over 3 times x, right? In both cases, x is just alone or being multiplied by 1 and then being divided by 3. So here, my slope turns out to be parallel to negative 1/3. Is that okay? So my slope is negative 1/3 and my point is negative 2, 4. So I know m is negative 1/3. x1 is my x value, negative 2. y1 is my y value of 4. Good? Okay. So I'm going to put them all into here.
What's the x1 value?
This one?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I got confused where you got that one from.
No, it's okay. That's what I'm supposed to be doing, clarifying things for you, right? So this is a point. You can just, every point is going to go in the order x, y. It's 0.1. So that's why these have these sub ones. It just means we're talking about 0.1 or P1. 0.1 has
Okay,
an
that's
x1.
I was confused
Y1.
at like sub 1
So
part
yes,
of
I know. Why are you adding more numbers to a math class? It's bad. So sub just is like just telling you whose it is. This is the x of 0.1. This is the y of 0.1. So y1 is just any y value of the point you have. And if you have, so remember, you're going to be given 2 points. It doesn't matter which one you use. You can call this y1 and this x1, or you can call this y1 and this x1. Okay, there's not a 0.1 and 0.2 until you make one of your points 0.1, one of your points 0.2, and you start writing the little subs in. Okay. And you only need one of them. So just use whichever one looks easiest, right? I chose this one because it has a 0 in it. 0 is easier than 15. But when you see this, just think about this is another way to write y equals mx plus b, right? Your b is always just a number. And so this has a y and an x, and this has a y and an x. So you don't need to get rid of these y's and x's. You're not replacing these. You're just replacing those that are attached to one of the points. These are always in linear equations. So those stay. This is the x and y of 1 point. X sub 1, y sub 1. Good. So I know my x sub 1 is negative 2, my y sub 1 is 4. Don't confuse the negatives. Don't forget the negatives. And let's solve it. So we have y minus, instead of y1, I'm going to write the number 4, equals, instead of the letter m, I'm going to write negative 1/3. Negative 1/3 is going to be multiplied by the x minus negative 2. So it's a double negative. Now that's y minus 4 is equal to negative 1/3 times x is just negative 1/3 x. Those are parallel. Those both have the same slope. And then negative 1/3, ooh, sorry. Well, I'll just go back and pretend like I did this step separately. 2 negatives make a positive, right? I did that before I distributed the negative 1/3. So now negative 1/3 times a positive 2. You're welcome to use your calculator. You're welcome to use a calculator in Desmos. Negative 1/3 times a positive 2 can be written like this. And then when you're multiplying fractions, you just multiply straight across. 1 times 2 is 2. 3 times 1 is 3. There was one negative sign, so I'm going to bring over the negative. Good. So negative 1/3 multiplied by a positive 2 is a positive negative 2/3. Any questions? I still have to move the negative 4. This is not going to happen on an exam, okay? There's not going to be a fraction where you have to subtract a whole number from a fraction. So negative 2/3 plus 4. Good. That's what my calculator gave me. Basically, you're taking 4 and you're subtracting 2/3 from it, and you get 3 1/3. That's the decimal form. Again, this will not come up where you're having to work with fractions while doing all of this, except that your slope will be a fraction. And again, so when you have a multiple choice test, right? What I would do, multiple choice, you're always going to have A, B, C, and D, right? They're asking you for an equation of a line. I would take, if I have no idea what to do, I would take A, I would put it into Desmos. I would take B, I would put it into Desmos. I would take C, I would put it into Desmos. I would take D, put it into Desmos. And then I would put this one into Desmos, make sure they're parallel, right? It should be parallel to that one. So it should look something like that. And then I would put this point into Desmos. So I know it needs to be parallel to that one and it needs to go through that point. Only one of those will meet both of those criteria. Okay. So use on a multiple choice, put everything into Desmos. Even if it doesn't make sense to put it into Desmos, it will help you see things. Okay. You can put points in and label them. You can put equations like this in and label them. And you can put this equation in and label it. Good. All right. Perpendicular.
On the test, I'm
Yes.
sorry.
No.
Are we gonna be having to do the graphing like how we have been on my math lab?
No, because it's all multiple choice.
Okay, thank God.
I know, because it's so tiny. It's so tiny, and like my eyes just start going crazy on when I have to look at those tiny, tiny graphs. There is one question about parallel and perpendicular, okay? It's going to give you 2 equations, and it's going to ask you whether those 2 equations are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. Okay, so you need to know, for perpendicular, you need to know that 5 is perpendicular to -1/5, right? You need to know that we're going to flip this on the fraction and we're going to turn it negative. What was our last one? 7/3. -7/3 is parallel to +3/7. Okay, that's all you need to know about perpendicular and parallel. And we know that parallel means that the slope is exactly the same. We're just talking about slope here. Good. But they're not going to ask you something like this on the exam. It is important because you are going to have to find the slope of equations that are in standard form rather than y = mx + b. And you're going to need to find the equation of a line when you only have the slope and the point. So that is what you're learning at this point. It's not going to be this long, but you are going to need to solve this for y, and you're going to need to be able to take a slope and a point and make an equation. Good. Okay, so for this, we are going to use y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, right? We can tell what x1 is, and we can tell what y1 is right now, right? X1 is 3, y sub 1 is -5. So now I can say y minus -5 equals m times x minus 3. This doesn't, I can't do anything with this because I still have too many variables, right? I should only have a y and an x because what I want at the end is y equals mx plus b when these are both numbers, right? I can't use m and put it into Desmos. So for m, for the slope, I need to use the equation they gave me to find the opposite inverse of this slope. Okay, so for m, we're going to find the perpendicular to 3x plus 2y is 7. Good. Subtract 3x, subtract 3x. We get 2y equals -3x plus 7. Divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. Y equals negative 3/2 x plus, I would just leave 7/2 as 7/2. You could see something like this on as one of the answer choices. So this is as much fraction as you will see this unit is. You can leave it as the fraction you found it. If it was 14/4, they might call it 7/2 because that's simplified. Good. So now I know that my m is positive 2/3 because they said perpendicular. So if it was parallel, negative 3/2 is parallel to negative 3/2, but negative 3/2 is perpendicular to, we're going to flip it. So 3's on the bottom, 2's on the top. And we're going to change from a negative sign to a positive sign. So my slope is 2/3. Now I know what to put in here. Y minus a negative 5 is a y plus 5 is, instead of the letter m, I'm going to say 2/3 times x minus 3. Good. Y plus 5 equals 2/3 x. 2/3 times a negative 3. Positive 2, positive 3 times negative 3, positive 1. Or you can just put the negative sign out in front. It does not matter. Okay. Just, you have one negative, so your answer should have one negative, either there, there, or there. 2 times 3 is 6. We accounted for that negative right here. 3 times 1 is 3. Negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2, because 6 divided by 3 is 2, and it was all negative. Or you could say this 3 cancels out this 3, but the 2 is a negative, if that was easy for you too. 2 is being divided by 3 and then being multiplied by a negative 3. This 2 is being multiplied by this negative 3, but then divided by a positive 3. So those 3 cancel out, but the negative sign doesn't. Now I'm just going to subtract 5, skip down here because I wrote it. Y equals 2/3 x minus 7. Good? Okay. That is an equation of a line containing the point 3, -5 perpendicular to 3x plus 2y equals 7.